Hey, Frank here, and this is what we did last night. So we started the night off with our Youthman playlist on Spotify, and I've been really being intentional with and adding new music on there because I want it to be just tons of good music, especially more current stuff. And I'm trying to also delete some stuff that might be a little bit too old, but one thing I've been getting is a lot of compliments on my playlist from the students, which is the most important thing. When the students like the music, and I know it's not inappropriate, it's a good day for all of us. So check out the Youthman playlist, it's down in the description below. So I showed this 5-minute countdown video that had this David Crowder track over the top of it, and then I went into our funny videos. The first funny video we showed was it was called Guy on a Buffalo. It's a classic little series of 2-minute videos from this old TV show or movie in the 70s. Anyways, check it out. It's all 4 videos are in one post on the Videos for Student Ministry blog. I plan on showing each of these videos once a week, and the kids thought it was really weird and goofy. So check those videos out. It's gonna be hilarious over the next 3 weeks showing this series of videos of Guy on the Buffalo. The second funny video we showed was AP Driver's Ed. I think it's by Tripp and Tyler, and it's just really funny, very condescending when it comes to what people do when they drive. I thought it was hilarious. Some of them could relate to some of the jokes they were making. Some of them could relate to their parents to relate to some of the jokes they were making. So it was really funny. The kids loved it. So check out those 2 funny videos. Those are classics that will nail in your youth group. So the first game we played was called Make It or Break It. It's one of those games somehow everyone has the files to this game. Somehow, some way in your youth ministry experience, you had downloaded these files somewhere. And if you just maybe even go on your computer and search Make It or Break It, you might find these files in your computer. You never knew you had it. But anyway, if you do a quick Google search, I'll try to find a link of a place to download the videos. They're usually for free, and it's just a series of extreme sports, and they pause it in the middle of a jump or a grind, and they ask you, did they make it or break it? And it's a fun video. It's a fun game. It's really well done. You just have the kids shouting, and it's a win. So check that game out. And the last game we played was actually a game that I was really excited about, because what I wanted to do was play almost like a scavenger hunt where kids had to talk to each other and get to know each other. And then on the Youthman store, Ben Reed put a game called The Scrambler, which kind of accomplishes all what you want in that. They get those get to know you mixer games, but in a fun way. So the game, it'll show on the screen one group has to be people who have jeans on, and the other group has to be people who don't have jeans on, who have shorts or khakis or something like that. And then you have 2 different groups, and in those groups you have to ask them a question when it's winter, what's one summer event that you miss? And they so to get to know each other and ask questions. And so it's 5 rounds of that, and it was really fun, really good questions. Some of them were very surface level, about the summer and winter one, and some of them were deep, what are your bad habits, and how are you better off now than you were 2 years ago? And so it's a good spectrum of really fun questions and really deep questions. And so check that out. It's in the Youthman store. It's $3. It's a good deal, and it's a good way, especially if you feel your kids are in a bunch of cliques, to kind of split them up and let them meet other people and be intentional in that game to make sure that people who are lying or trying to be in cliques break up those cliques so they can meet and talk to other people. Check that out. So after that game, junior high goes off to small groups for the rest of the evening, and senior high stays in the youth room for their lesson. And we began the series entitled Esther, and it's about the book of Esther. And so I don't know where this is. If there's a link below to download this stuff, then you're lucky, because I found it Googling between the time I filmed this and the time I edited it and put it on YouTube. But I don't know if you can get this stuff anymore. I've had these files on my computer for years, because back a long time ago, Mars Hill Church, before they ceased to exist, they put out all their media files out into the world, so that way people could download them and use them in their ministry. And so I've had these Esther files for several years now, and I love the story of Esther, and I love preaching on the book of Esther, and even their tagline, God uses imperfect people for his perfect will, works totally for what I was trying to accomplish in student ministry. And so we began last night with the Esther series, and we show what's called the Esther prologue, which I know for sure is on YouTube right now. You can go and see it. A little over a 4-minute video kind of going over how the Jews went into Babylonian captivity, what got them out of Babylonian captivity, and then how they end up in the Persian Empire, and the group who went back to Jerusalem, and those who went to Susa, and kind of explain all of that background story that leads us to the point of here's Esther, and here's how her book begins. And so it was a good lead-in video. It's very well done, very cool, kind of like a dark anime video, if you will. And then I spent the entire time of my message not even really opening the Bible. I know that sounds kind of bad because I hate when I hear about youth pastors not reading the Bible and just kind of sharing stories. But the reason why we didn't even open the Bible is because what I did is I essentially shared the entire book of Esther from memory, from beginning to end, and kind of just saying it like a story, like just a long narrative. And I purposely kind of withdrew some parts because they're going to be essential parts in my message, like the irony of how Haman died at his own stake that he was supposed to kill Mordecai with, and all that kind of stuff. Like, I kind of withdrew some of those minor details that will help me explain some major point plots later in the series, but I just really from beginning to end talked about Xerxes and talked about how his wife didn't want to come out in the party and how he did like a bachelorette and a bachelor, Persian bachelor, and how all the women came forward and how he picked Esther because she was so beautiful, and then talking about Mordecai over here in the plot to kill Xerxes, and then over here in the plot of the extermination of the Jews, and all this stuff going up to the very end where we see in the last party of celebrating that the God's people have been saved. And so I shared the entire story, and then talked about how God's not mentioned in the book of Esther, and then talked about how even though God's not mentioned, God's always working, and God's intricately working in those things without even us knowing. And so tying it to us is that there's times in our life where we feel like God's not working, that God's not moving, but God is, like John Piper says, God is doing 10,000 things, and we may only be aware of 3 of them, and that God is always working, He's always in control. There's never a time He's forgotten us or a time where you're too messed up to not be for Him to be working for you. Like, God is always sovereignly working behind the scenes for your good. And so we kind of talked about what that looks like, that our own life God is working. So it was a good time. Small groups was really good. I've heard a lot of encouraging things from our small group leaders, that there was a really good intentional small group time. But yeah, last night was great. One thing we switched up last night is we got rid of the sofas and the beanbags, and as opposed to just them sitting wherever they want, we set up chairs. And I think there was a very, very little hesitation or disagreement with that. The reason why we did that is because when we say sit wherever you want, we get some kind of awkward sitting situations, like guys and girls sitting on each other literally and stuff like that. So even though it's a little more formal, rows of chairs creates order and controls things. And so we loved it, you know what I'm saying? And it also feels like there's more people when you just have rows and rows of chairs for some reason, as opposed to them just being scattered all over the room. So with that being said, we're going to go into week 2 of Esther next week, and hopefully, if not next week, the week after that, I'm going to announce the big event that I have going on, the new youth group logo and design, and hopefully in that video I'll be wearing the new youth group t-shirt. So all that stuff to come. Super excited. Hey man, God bless you guys. Be safe. See ya.